The sky above the planet Ravelon 4 was dark and stormy. Red lightning flashed across the clouds, and loud thunder rumbled in the distance. It was a dangerous world, wild, untamed, and full of strange creatures. But deep in the middle of the jungle, a human scout named Eli was carefully making his way through the thick trees. Eli had been sent by the United Earth Federation to scan the planet for resources. He was trained, smart, and always ready. His small base was set up a few kilometers away. Today, his scanner picked up something strange, a sudden energy burst not far from his location. Curious and alert, Eli followed the signal. After walking for nearly an hour, he reached a clearing and stopped. In front of him was something unexpected, a crashed alien ship. The ship was small and shaped like a silver crescent moon. Smoke was rising from one side, and pieces of metal were scattered across the ground. Eli carefully approached, keeping his hand near his weapon, just in case. But what he saw next made him pause. Lying near the wreckage was a figure, a female alien. She had soft blue and purple skin, small elf-like ears, and long white hair. Her clothes were torn from the crash, and she was clearly injured. Eli dropped to one knee beside her. "Hey, can you hear me?" he said softly. The alien's eyes fluttered open. She looked at him, confused and afraid. She didn't understand his words, but she could feel something in his voice. Kindness. Eli quickly opened his medkit and started treating her wounds. He sprayed a healing foam on a deep cut on her leg, wrapped her arm in a clean bandage, and gave her water. She drank slowly, still watching him carefully. "I'm not here to hurt you," he said, even though he knew she couldn't understand. "You're safe now." The alien tried to speak, but her language was unfamiliar, full of musical tones and soft clicks. Eli shook his head, smiling gently. "Yeah, we're gonna have a hard time talking." Still, the alien seemed to understand his smile. She gave a weak one in return. Eli built a small stretcher from branches and strong wire, then gently lifted her onto it. The journey back to his outpost was slow, but he stayed patient, checking on her every few minutes. She watched him the whole time, amazed. In her world, being helped by a stranger, especially someone from another species, was very rare. Her name was Zara, and she was from the Lyrain race, a peaceful and intelligent species that lived far beyond the human frontier. Her mission had been to explore new stars and gather knowledge. But something had gone wrong. A meteor storm had damaged her ship, and she had crashed here, on this wild world. By the time Eli reached his outpost, it was night. The small structure was made of metal and solar panels, with basic life support systems. It was enough for survival, but now he had a guest. He placed Zyra on a bed and activated the translator device in his computer. It would take time to learn her language, but he began recording everything she said, trying to build a pattern. Over the next few days, Eli cared for Zyra like a true medic. He brought her simple meals of fruits, soup, and energy bars. He helped her stand and even repaired a small part of her broken ship using tools from his outpost. Zyra slowly healed. She watched Eli with quiet curiosity. His behavior was surprising. In Lyrain culture, kindness like this was a big deal. Their people had a long tradition. If someone saved your life, they became part of your honor circle, a bond of respect and trust that was never taken lightly. One morning, as the sun rose over the jungle, Zyra stepped outside for the first time. She stood near the edge of the clearing, taking in the air. Eli smiled when he saw her. "Feeling better?" he asked. She tilted her head, not understanding the words, but she nodded softly. Then she placed a hand over her heart and bowed slightly, a gesture from her world. Eli returned the gesture with a smile. Later that evening, something surprising happened. Zyra noticed Eli working hard to repair the signal beacon so she could call her people. Her eyes filled with gratitude. In her culture, the highest way to show thanks was through an ancient ritual. It was a way of offering peace, trust, and respect. She believed that it would be the perfect moment to perform it. She stepped forward and looked at Eli. Her hands moved in a graceful way, part of the traditional Lyrain dance of honor. Then, slowly, she began the first step of the ritual, removing the outer layer of her robe, as was custom. But before she could go further, Eli turned around and his eyes widened. Whoa, wait. What are you doing? He said, raising his hands quickly. Zyra stopped. Her face showed confusion. To her, this was a normal and respectful thing. But Eli looked uncomfortable. He gently grabbed a nearby blanket and offered it to her. I think we're having a cultural misunderstanding here. Zyra took the blanket, puzzled. She wrapped it around herself again and sat down quietly. Eli sat across from her and rubbed the back of his neck. I know you're trying to say thank you, he said, pointing to his heart and then to her. But in human culture, we do things a little differently. She watched his gestures, her mind slowly catching on. Then she nodded, realizing something had gone wrong. She gave a small, apologetic bow. Eli chuckled softly. It's okay. We're learning from each other, right? That night, Zyra sat quietly beside the small fire Eli had built. She looked up at the stars and then at the human who had saved her life. Her heart was full of new thoughts about kindness, respect, and how different species could still understand each other in the most unexpected ways. And though she had made a mistake, she now knew something important. Gratitude didn't always need to follow old traditions. Sometimes it just needed to come from the heart. The days passed quietly on Ravelon 4. The storms came and went, but inside the small human outpost, things were calm. Eli and Zyra were slowly learning to understand each other. The translator device was getting better with each passing hour, and so was their trust. Zyra no longer needed help walking. Her wounds had healed, and her strength was returning. She spent her time watching Eli fix machines, cook food, and even clean his gear. Every movement he made seemed focused and calm. She admired that. One afternoon, as they sat together near the small fire pit, the translator beeped and finally spoke in a robotic voice. Basic communication level achieved. Zyra looked at Eli with wide eyes. Can you understand now? She asked slowly. Eli smiled. The words were not perfect, but clear enough. Yes, a little, it works. Zyra laughed softly, the sound like wind chimes. Good. I've wanted to say thank you. Truly, Eli nodded. You're welcome. I couldn't leave you out there. They were quiet for a while, just listening to the sounds of the jungle. Strange birds called in the distance, and the trees swayed under the soft wind. It was peaceful. Zyra broke the silence. Back on my world, when someone saves your life, we perform a ritual of gratitude. Eli raised an eyebrow. The one from before? Zyra looked away, a bit embarrassed. Yes, I misunderstood. I thought it was the right way. Eli chuckled. Well, I didn't expect that. On Earth, saying thanks is much simpler. Zyra looked at him with interest. How do humans show gratitude? Eli thought for a moment. We say kind words, sometimes we give gifts, or help each other in return. But mostly we just try to be good to the people who were good to us. Zyra smiled. That is beautiful and easy, Eli nodded. Not always easy, but honest. Over the next few days, Zyra began to study human ways. She watched how Eli handled stress. He was patient with broken tools, calm during strong winds, and never shouted even when things went wrong. She began to copy him, folding her sleeping cloth like he did, helping prepare meals. And learning to use the translator better. In return, she taught Eli about her world. She drew images of the Lyran city's tall towers made of crystal and soft light. She explained how her people lived in harmony with nature, and how every Lyran child was taught music and peace before they learned science or language. Eli listened carefully. Sounds like your people don't fight much. Zyra shook her head. We try not to. Fighting makes hearts hard. Eli smiled sadly. Humans had to fight a lot to survive. But we're trying to be better. Zyra looked at him with soft eyes. You are already better than most I've met. Later that evening, Zyra walked to the edge of the jungle alone. The sky was turning orange as the sun set. She held a small crystal in her hand, a memory stone from her ship. It was the only piece that had survived the crash. Eli noticed her and walked over. Everything okay? Zyra nodded. I was remembering my mission. I came here to explore, to learn about stars and other life forms. But instead, I learned about one human. Eli looked at the crystal. Are you sad? She paused. A little, but also not sad. I've learned something important. What's that? That kindness is not limited to my people. It lives in others too, even in a human who lives alone in a wild world. Eli smiled. You're not alone anymore. The next morning, Zaira helped Eli check the communication tower. The repairs were almost finished. Soon, she would be able to contact her people and call for rescue. The thought made her heart feel heavy. She didn't want to leave so quickly. Eli noticed her silence. You'll be going home soon. Yes, Zaira said quietly. That's what I wanted before, Eli nodded. You miss your people. I do, but I will miss this place too. And you, Eli said nothing at first. Then he replied, I'll miss you too, Zaira. The air between them was warm and quiet. There was no need for more words. Later, Zaira prepared a small surprise. She wanted to thank Eli properly, the human way, using parts from her ship and materials. From the forest, she made something simple but beautiful, a small sculpture of two hands, one Lyran and one human, touching at the fingertips. She placed it on his work desk with a note written through the translator. This is how I say thank you now, the human way. When Eli found it, he stared at the sculpture for a long time. Then he smiled, a deep and quiet smile. He walked to Zaira, who was waiting outside, and handed her a small metal patch from his jacket. It showed the earth symbol. Then this is my gift to you. A piece of earth. Zaira held it close. Now I carry both worlds with me. That night, the signal tower lit up. The message had been sent. Her people were on their way. Rescue would come in 3 days. Eli and Zaira sat by the fire one last time. The stars above were bright and the jungle was quiet. Do you think your people will be okay with humans? Eli asked. Zaira thought carefully. They are peaceful but cautious. They may fear humans at first. Will you tell them about me? Yes, she said firmly. I will tell them the truth. That one human saved my life, not just with medicine or tools, but with heart. Eli looked at the fire. I never expected to meet someone like you. Zaira smiled. Neither did I, but sometimes the stars guide us to the right place. As the fire burned low, they sat in silence. No more explanations were needed. They had learned each other's ways, not just language or culture, but something deeper. Respect, friendship, trust. And in the middle of a dangerous planet, two very different beings had shown the galaxy what real understanding could look like. 3 suns rose over the thick jungles of Ravalon 4, casting soft orange and gold light across the trees. Birds sang strange songs and alien flowers opened to the warm air. But inside the small human outpost, the mood was quiet and heavy. Zaira stood by the window, watching the sky. Today was the day. Her people were coming. Behind her, Eli packed a small crate of tools. He didn't say much. He knew this day was important, but a part of him felt something tight in his chest, the feeling of losing a friend. Zaira turned to him. They will arrive in 2 hours, Eli nodded. You're ready? Zaira looked down at the earth patch. He had given her yes and no. They both smiled a little, but neither of them spoke about what they were truly feeling, the first sign of the Lyran. Ship was a soft hum in the air. The sound grew louder and the sky shimmered. A sleek silver vessel appeared through the clouds, glowing gently. It hovered above the clearing, then slowly descended. Eli stepped back as the ship landed. Its design was smooth and curved, like it had been carved by wind and time. The door opened, and 3 Lyran stepped out, 2 males and 1 female. Their clothes were smooth and flowing, decorated with symbols of peace and unity. Zaira stepped forward to greet them. She bowed, placing her hand over her heart. The others responded with the same gesture. One of the Lyran, the tall male in front, spoke through his translator. We received your signal. We came as fast as we could. You hurt? I am well, Zaira replied. And I have learned much. Their eyes moved to Eli, who stood quietly a few steps away. The Lyran male frowned slightly. Is this a human? Zaira nodded. Yes, his name is Eli. He saved my life and helped me when I was alone. The 3 Lyran exchanged uncertain looks. Eli gave a small nod. Welcome, he said. The female Lyron replied. We did not expect humans to be here, Eli shrugged. I didn't expect visitors either, Zyra stepped between them. He is kind. He protected me. And he treated me not as an enemy but as a friend. The Lyron seemed unsure. They had always been told that humans were rough, loud, and dangerous. Many in the galaxy still feared them. The Lyrion were peaceful scientists and explorers. They had never had contact with humans before. Until now, Zyra continued, I made mistakes. I did not understand human customs at first, but Eli was patient. He taught me. He respected my traditions even when I misunderstood his. The Lyrian leader asked carefully, You trust him? With my life? She answered. The leader nodded slowly. Then we must learn too. The next few hours were quiet but filled with small signs of progress. The Lyrian explored the outpost, spoke with Eli through the translator, and observed his work. They saw the sculpture Zyra had made for him in the earth patch she now wore proudly. One Lyrian scientist approached Eli. You are alone here? Yes, he replied. Just a scout mission. I survey planets, collect data, report back to Earth. You helped our Zyra. That is unexpected. Eli looked at him. Maybe you were expecting the wrong kind of human. The scientist gave a thoughtful nod. Later, the Lyrian gathered outside the outpost. Zyra stood beside Eli. The leader spoke. We believe in peace. We fear war and we avoid those who choose violence. But today we saw something else. He looked at Eli. You have shown kindness, and for that we thank you. Eli nodded but said nothing. The leader turned to Zyra. Are you ready to return with us? Zyra hesitated. She looked around at the trees, the sky, the quiet campfire pit, and finally at Eli. I am ready, but my heart will stay in two places. Eli smiled sadly. You'll be back in your world soon. She stepped forward. Yes, but I will carry your world with me. She placed a small crystal in Eli's hand. This holds my voice. My story. If you ever forget, listen to it. You will hear my gratitude the human way. As Zyra prepared to leave, she stood still for a moment, as if thinking hard. Then she turned around, walked back to Eli, and reached out her hand. Eli understood. He shook it firmly. Take care of yourself, he said. You too, she replied. Softly, the Lyrian ship lifted gently from the ground. Eli stepped back, watching it rise into the sky. A small window opened. Zyra looked down and smiled. She placed her hand on the glass, a quiet goodbye, and then the ship was gone. Eli stood, alone in the clearing once again. The wind blew through the trees, and the sounds of the jungle returned. But something had changed. A memory had been planted here, a story of two strangers who became friends. Not through power, but through understanding. Back in the Lyrian ship, Zyra sat in silence, holding the earth patch in her hand. She closed her eyes and whispered, Thank you, Eli, for showing me the human heart. The Lyrian ship moved swiftly through the vastness of space, leaving Ravalon 4 behind. Zyra sat quietly in the observation room, staring out at the stars that sparkled like distant jewels. Her thoughts were filled with the memories of Eli, the human who had saved her life and taught her the meaning of kindness beyond words. The ship's soft hum was the only sound as the crew prepared for their journey home. Zyra held the earth patch close to her chest. It was a symbol now, a reminder of two worlds connected by trust and friendship. Back on Earth, Eli returned to his small outpost alone. The jungle around him was unchanged, but Eli felt different. His heart was heavier and lighter at the same time. He had made a friend, a true friend from a distant world. He began repairing his communication equipment to report what had happened. As he worked, he thought about the Lyrian people and how little they knew about humans. He wanted to change that. He wanted to show the galaxy that humans were more than just fighters and explorers. They were capable of kindness, patience, and understanding. Days passed. Zyra's ship approached the Lyrian homeworld, a planet filled with shimmering lakes, tall crystal towers, and gentle green forests. As the ship entered the atmosphere, the crew prepared to land. Zyra's heart beat faster. She was eager to share her story, but also nervous. How would her people react to her new ideas about humans? The ship landed softly in the center of the capital city. Lyran officials and scientists waited, their eyes filled with curiosity and concern. Zyra stepped out and was greeted with many questions. The leader of the Lyran Council, a wise and calm figure named Kalen, spoke first. Zyra, you risked much to come here. Tell us what you have learned. Zyra took a deep breath. I learned that humans are not what we feared. One human saved my life, showed me kindness, and taught me the meaning of true friendship. He did not judge me for being different. He treated me with respect and patience. The council members whispered among themselves, surprised and thoughtful. Kalen asked, Do you trust this human? Zara looked them all in the eyes. Yes, I trust him with my life. The council was silent for a long moment. Then Kalen spoke again. This changes many things. Our history teaches us to fear humans, but your experience shows us there is more to their story. He turned to his advisors. We must learn from this. We must open ourselves to understanding, not fear. Zyra smiled. That is why I carry this. She held up the earth patch Eli had given her. It is a symbol of friendship, not war. Meanwhile, back on Earth, Eli received a strange signal. It was from Zyra's ship, a message of peace and hope. He listened carefully as the Lyrians spoke about their new understanding of humans. Eli's heart swelled with pride. He knew the galaxy was big, and there would be challenges ahead. But this was a start. Zyra was honored by her people for her courage and honesty. She told them stories of Earth, of human laughter, kindness, and strength. She spoke of Eli's calm in the storm, his patience with her mistakes, and the quiet way he showed respect. Her people began to see humans in a new light. As the days passed, Zyra prepared for her next journey, back to Earth, but this time she would not be alone. The Lyran Council had decided to send an official delegation to meet with the humans before leaving. Zyra visited the Crystal Garden, a place of peace and reflection. She touched a small crystal shaped like two hands reaching for each other. The sculpture she had made for Eli. It now sat in the garden as a symbol of hope between two worlds. She whispered, Thank you, Eli. You changed everything. The story of Zyra and Eli spread through the stars, a tale of friendship that crossed worlds and cultures. It reminded everyone that even in the darkest places, kindness could shine bright. And for Eli, the human living alone on a distant planet, it was proof that sometimes the greatest strength was not in weapons or power, but in the simple act of understanding another's heart. The Lyran delegation's ship pierced the blue atmosphere of Earth. Below, the green forests and shimmering cities stretched far into the distance. Eli stood on the landing platform, waiting with calm patience. He had received the message from Zyra days ago. She had asked him to prepare for visitors, her people, the Lyrian. It was a moment he never thought would come. As the ship landed, the air shimmered with quiet energy. The doors opened and Zyra stepped out first. Her face shone with joy and hope. Behind her were the Lyran officials, curious, cautious, but open. Eli smiled and stepped forward. Welcome to Earth, he said simply. Zyra returned the smile. Thank you, Eli, for everything. The visitors were taken to Eli's outpost first. It was small, simple, and surrounded by tall trees. To the Lyran it seemed humble, but to Eli it was home. Zyra showed her people around, explaining the plants, the air, and the sounds they heard every day. The Lyran listened carefully, their eyes wide with wonder. One of the Lyran scientists asked Eli, How can humans live so far from their cities? Don't you miss your people? Eli looked at the forest. Sometimes. But this place reminds me of where we all come from. The earth, the trees, the sky, they connect us. Zyra nodded. And humans carry that connection in their hearts, even far from home. Over the next days, the Lyran delegation and Eli worked together to share knowledge. The Lyran showed their technology, machines that healed plants, devices that cleaned water, tools that helped them understand the stars. Eli shared human stories, tales of bravery, kindness, and laughter. He told them about his life, the lonely scout missions, and the day he met Zyra. The Lyran were fascinated. They saw humans not as wild or dangerous but as complex and caring beings. One evening, as the sun set behind the mountains, Zara and Eli sat near a small fire. The sky turned orange and purple. Zara looked at Eli and said softly, "I almost made a mistake the first time I tried to thank you." Eli raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" She smiled. "On my world, we show thanks with a special ritual. I thought that's what humans did too." "But you did not react like I expected," Eli laughed quietly. "I guess I was surprised. But you don't have to do anything like that with me." Zara nodded. "I understand now. Humans express thanks in many ways. Sometimes words, sometimes actions, sometimes just a simple smile." Eli smiled back. "A smile goes a long way." The next day, the Lyran leaders invited Eli and Zara to the city hall. They wanted to make an official agreement, a promise of peace and friendship between their people. Kalen, the Lyran leader, spoke first. "This meeting is historic. Today we open a new chapter. Humans and Lyran will work together, learn from each other, and protect the galaxy." Eli shook hands with the Lyran officials. Zara stood proudly beside him. The agreement was signed, with simple words and firm handshakes. It was not just paper, it was hope. As the Lyran prepared to leave Earth, Zara hugged Eli tightly. "Thank you for showing me the true meaning of kindness." Eli held her close. "Thank you for teaching us to look beyond fear." The Lyran ship lifted off, disappearing into the starry sky. Eli watched until it was just a bright dot among the stars. He smiled. Back in his outpost, Eli felt a new strength. He knew that far beyond the trees, the galaxy was watching. And now, two worlds were connected by trust and hope. He looked at the earth patch Zara had given him. It was more than a piece of cloth. It was a symbol of friendship that would never fade. And as the stars shone brightly above, Eli whispered to the night, "This is only the beginning.